Hi, I'm Duncan from Shegulls, and today we're going to be speaking to Julie Hemsley, former Albion player, coach, manager, assistant manager of England team, England Lioness, about her life and career and everything in between. We'll stick with the sort of your playing career, and then I guess this probably would be sort of maybe around the middle or towards the end. So GPO obviously then became
CNC
CNC,
Sports, yep.
and then CNC becomes Brighton Hove Albion. So what was the process of CNC being absorbed into the club? Was there someone at the club who was really interested in
football in the community? I think the PFA and the FA decided that they wanted to get more girls involved, and I'd met Steve Ford a couple of times, and I got an interview for a job out there. He was running football in the community at the time. Back in 19, Barry Lloyd was manager at the time, I think. And I went for an interview and said, well, let's bring the Brighton team here, the CNC Southwick team. So we did that, and it was great because we got into the National League. We needed to upgrade, and they allowed us to use the name. But that was it.
Yeah.
But it was a start. And what they did is that they allowed us to have a sign-in on night at the Goldstone, which was special, you know. I mean, it was after hours, not just me and the kit man, I think, were there, or Steve might have been there as well. But because we got into the National League, I wanted to keep my players. I can't do this if everybody else is going to leave, which is what was happening in women's football, because there was, hopping on to every club, London clubs especially. And so we did an amateur contract, and we did a sign-in on night. So they come in. We didn't have phones and photographs on your phones like that. I mean, you talk about records, but we had a table and a couple of chairs, and each player would come in and they'd sign on their agreement to play for at least 2 seasons. Bearing in any mind is always a get out. But yeah, I felt good because we came into the Goldstone, and then all of a sudden, like, well, this is what we got to offer you.
Yeah.
One day we'll get a couple of games out here. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and I pushed and I pushed and I pushed in a nice way, and we did. We eventually got 2 games a season. Like I say, we were with Dean, playing at with Dean at the time, practicing there, and then we eventually went up to Sussex University. So, it was huge. Brighton Hove Albion. But we were Women and Girls FC,
right?
Not Brighton Hove Albion FC. Right. So it's women. It was separate, but not.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean. So, but just to get in there with the team was incredible. And we did, we did 5-a-sides. We were asked to do exhibition games. We did one at Arundel Castle once, actually. It was quite amazing. This festival day, and could you bring Brighton ladies down? Like, yeah, sure. So we went down, and it was so much fun. So we got a little bit. Then it started. Other things were happening because we were Brighton ladies. Yeah, it was good.
So at the time, this is something that just sort of occurred to me because you were talking about the sort of amateur contracts. Would it have been? I assume it wasn't sort of pay to play, but were players paid?
It was pay to play, yeah.
Oh, it was okay. Still at that stage.
Yeah, we still had to pay.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to get money out of them was one thing because at the end of the day, it's pocket change. But we needed subscriptions.
Yeah.
And then we tried to get sponsors so that it would offset what we couldn't get. So I can't even remember. Eileen might remember. Joe might even remember. Don't know if Joe ever had to pay. I think I did. It's about 70 quid, I think, for a year.
Okay. I can't do the inflationary maths, but yeah, it's just it seems so crazy to me, and that's why like I confess I'm 38, so my daughters now, if I told them that people used to have to, that would play for Brighton had to pay to play, even at that stage, is I, but that was what you had to do, right?
Well, yeah, because where's the money going to come from? You needed to hire vans, or you needed to pay for practice. I mean, nobody gave us anything free. We had to pay for the privilege of training there. I mean, it wasn't until, well, until they got into the WSL that they probably didn't have to pay. I kind of left it for a little while.
Yeah, it is crazy, but yeah, again, that's why it's important to talk about, I think. So, so you went on to, like you say, did you coach and then become assistant manager, and then, or was you straight into assistant manager?
No, I coached for Brighton. I was player coach for Brighton for a number of years, and then I got invited by Charles Hughes to go up to London, Lancaster Gate. I remember it, sitting in the big office there, and he offered me the assistant manager's job. And I said, I better go and check with my club, Brighton, if I'm allowed, because that's how I got brought up.
Yeah.
And I know they were laughing at me inside in a nice way.
Yeah.
So I went and spoke to Barry Lloyd. I said to Barry Lloyd, look, I've got this opportunity. Hopefully it won't affect my job, but I've been asked to be the assistant manager of the national team. And he more or less said, well, what are you coming in and telling me for? I said, well, you're my boss. And they said, of course, it's an absolute honour to have you with Brighton and then coach, having been an England player, and then coaching as well. So it was great. So I accepted the job, and then, I was before that, after that, so that was 91, 92. And then 93, we're up in a hotel in Stoke with the FA taking over women's football. And my name got put forward to be, I didn't even know what an FA council member was. I'm sure you got in your list there somewhere. But it coincides with the England job. And when I got selected for the council, somebody did mention, but she's assistant manager of the national team. Is she allowed to do both? And yeah, they said, yeah. So that was Brighton Hove Albion, Sussex County. I think I was coaching the Sussex County squad at that time. Then, England, and then whatever else I was getting my little fingers into the pies, and I just had to keep it going.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need players. We need players to want to come play for Brighton. And then the job made it easy because I got into schools, I got into little clubs, and we'd go along and we'd teach them how to develop girls football. So I'd do about 8 weeks at the place, and then there'd be, 8 girls, 12 girls, 18, all different, 30 on one at school, indoor at Calder Newman, I think it was. I mean, all the local schools in Brighton, we covered them. And it was great, because to me, it was like, right, now we'll get you in the system, and then the pathways will develop, and got a lot of players through that. There's a lot of players that play for Brighton that are still fans and go and watch the games, which is the ultimate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Playing, watching, and they take their kids.
Yeah.
Like Banksy, like Angela Banks.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, which I suppose is, not necessarily always the case in sport, because if you've had a bad experience, it might be that when you come out the other end, you kind of want to go away from that a little bit. Yeah. But I think, like you say, it's testament to how you and others brought them through, is that they've kind of retained the love of the game, even to then pass on to the next generation. And it's not, at no point was it sort of soured for them, or...
Well, it is the love of the game, and that's what I think when we were watching, it always is for the love of the game and the passion of your club. you know, wearing the badge is important, but to actually be able to play as well, and then try and move up into the echelons of that, that's incredible.
Yeah.
And you think of the Lionesses right now, and well, not just the Lionesses. I mean, you've got other countries that benefit from what we what we do for women's football, because the Welsh FA, Ireland. I mean, Sophie Perry was fantastic Irish player. She's over in Thailand now. She's a Brighton player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and played WSL. So I mean, when you, for me, as a pioneer, if you like, I was so proud of it. So proud of because I remember saying this years ago, and one of the England players said, "Oh, that never happened." If you've got a dream, you might as well dream big. And when it actually comes to fruition, you know that, you know, it all exists, doesn't it? You know, because there's a lot of people that didn't believe that women should be playing, girls shouldn't be playing, but there's nowhere for them to go. So we basically, a lot of us, we made somewhere for them to go. And it's still here. And it's getting bigger. So it's brilliant. I think it's great.
Absolutely. So when you were assistant manager at England, that was under Ted Copeland?
Ted Copeland, yeah.
Okay. So how was that sort of experience? You know, when did you stop doing that? And, you know, what was it like sort of travelling with the England women's team? Give us a...
It was fantastic, you know, I mean, especially travelling as a coach as well, because it was business. So, you know, we'd be in a country, you know, every other month or whatever. Then we'd set you know, it's great to be on the training field. The difficult part for me was once I come off the training field, because I was a council member, travelling with the team as well, I would have to go and do those duties as well, which was fine, you know. And then it did get a little tough in the end, which is why they decided that I should just be the council member. It wasn't my idea, but like I said, when it happened, whatever's best for the game, because the game's bigger than any of us, and I was just lucky to be able to. I pursued my coaching career elsewhere, so, you know, obviously didn't have that with the England team, but when it was good, except Thursdays. Thursdays we used to do set pieces, and they'd always go wrong, and the clipboard would be on the floor. And in the end, I mean, it was, women's football was still women's football, and it was very difficult to try and get these girls to, you know, like, end up acting like a blooming school teacher half the time, which I didn't want. I mean, I wanted to be treated as a coach, and then in the end, it was, you know, the way it transferred to me not being the coach wasn't nice, but it was inevitable, because at the end of the day, whoever said, "Can she do both?" was probably quite right, because it was a lot of work. It's pretty stressful, and nobody, I mean, we were just talking about all our hats on the journey up. Like, you'd never get away with that. You wouldn't have to do it this day and age. And then, of course, well, where do you get a life as well? You know, but that's football is the life.
Yeah.
And I'm lucky that I was enabled to be able to do it as well for as long as I did. And we got to the final four in the Euros. So we got to the semi-finals of the Euros, and then the World Cup in '95 was amazing. I mean, there is my one regret with that was my mum came over. She travelled over with a load of the players, and they hopped around, went in lodges and things like that. I mean, they really looked after her, which was brilliant. And she'd come to the hotel to see us, and I'm like, "Mum, go away, I'm working." And I think, you know what, you should have been maybe asked her for lunch, but that's how I was. I was like, "I'm at work." You know what I mean? She didn't know. It was just one of those things. But I'm glad I had those moments with my players, and my mum. Hope Pell actually gave her shirt, which I thought was huge. And then, of course, Hope becomes Brighton, you know, we often laugh about some things, so that's good.